Hi guys, thank you for joining us today. Today we're going to be making this really cute little 3D hair embroidery, brilliant for personalised gifts for friends and family, so stick around to see how. So to make this project, here's a list of everything that you're going to need. So first thing we're going to do is transfer our design onto our fabric. We're going to use the scan and cut to do that. If you don't have a scan and cut, don't worry, you can print the template off and use a light box and trace around with a fine pen or a fabric pen if you've got one, but I'm going to show you how to do it with the scan and cut. So this is my low tack adhesive mat. This is for paper and card. Here is the template. I'm just going to pop that on there. Just stick it down and pop it in the machine. Okay, first thing we're going to do is scan it, and we're going to scan it to the cut data, so to the machine. Okay, so what I want is it in single line form. So I don't want just an outline, I don't want a double line. I just want a single line, and I'm just going to shrink it down to the part I want, press preview, and then save. We're going to save it to the machine. So there is our design. I'm going to press OK. Now I want to go into here, and as you can see, it's just selected a little section of it. So I'm going to go here and just select the whole thing, all of the parts, and then come down here and turn it into one design, and that's us ready to go. Now I'm going to scan so I can see where my fabric is. Now we're going to draw. The first thing I need to do is insert my pen. So I've got the scan and cut pen holder, and I'm just using the black pen. You can use the fabric pens if you want, but we'll be covering all the lines anyway, so it doesn't matter. There we go. That's in place. Press go. Right, okay, so the next thing we're going to do is adhere the fabric pieces to our clothing, to create our clothing here. So you want some scrap fabric. I've just cut out 2 little squares because I'm going to only need a tiny little bit. You also want some adhesive bonder web. So this is the type that is bonding on both sides, but it's got paper on one side. So the first thing we're going to do is actually bond these to the fabrics. So you're ironing the paper side. Okay, so while they're cooling, I'll show you how to make the template. So going back to your paper template, what you want to trace off is these fabric parts. So if I pull out the bits that I've traced off, you can see what I'm talking about. So it's these 2 bottom sections, this part of the dress, and this part of the dungarees. So I've got 2 little templates for each person. I'm going to turn each template over and just pop a little letter B on each side, because I want to remember which is the back side. Because we're drawing on the back of our fabric, we have to draw the pieces in reverse, otherwise they won't fit. So when I've got all my pieces, put the template to one side, I can bring in my fabric. So let's do our little dress first. So I'm just going to identify a part of the fabric where I want the pattern to kind of be. I'm just going to trace around it. Okay, so now we're going to cut out our little fabric shapes. So now we're going to stick them in place. I'd advise doing one person at a time. You can trim away bits until you're happy with the fit. Okay. And now it's time to hoop up. Right, so the next thing we're going to do is our little bit of lace embellishment across the top of the dress here. So I need a scrap of lace. So I've got some lace here. I've got some little seed beads to go with it. I've got some white thread, and I've got a needle that is small enough to fit through a bead. I'm going to get the end of my lace. Okay, so I'm going to start by securing this hemmed edge, this folded edge. And I'm going to start stitching it along this curve. So we're going to outline the arms, the neck and the heart in black embroidery floss. So I've got 6-strand embroidery floss in black here. I've got my tapestry needle and I've got my thread. I've pulled out 1 strand, and what we're going to do, this is a little tip to avoid having the back of your embroidery is too lumpy, rather than having lots of knots. So I've folded my 1 single strand in 2, so I've got a loop at one end. I'm going to pop it through my needle. Okay, so I'm going to start at the bottom of this arm, and I'm going to go back in. Each stitch is probably maybe about 3 millimeters. So as I'm going to pull it tight, I'm just going to pop my needle through the loop at the end and pull it tight, and now I've secured my thread without the need of a knot. So I'm going to come up. This is called a split stitch back stitch. So I'm bringing the needle back up through along the line about another 3 millimeters, and I'm actually going to go back in through the top of the previous stitch. So I'm not going through the same hole, I'm actually going through the stitch. So what it's doing is it's splitting the strands of this stitch. I'll show you again. So I'm going to come up about 3 millimeters, and instead of going back in through the same hole, I'm going through the stitch. I'm splitting the strands of the previous stitch, and what that does is it gives you a really nice continuous line. We've completed our outlining in our black, so you can see I've done the arms and the necks and the heart, just adding little details if you can for crooks of elbows and things like that. Just makes all the difference. So we've added some little details like that. Now I'm going to start with filling in the clothing on Girl in Dungarees. So I've got 3 different colours. I've got a dark sort of turquoise, a pale aqua and a pale blue for the different things I'm going to do. Obviously you can choose whatever colour you want to use. I've actually based this design on my 2 children, my 2 daughters. One is very girly and flowery and pinks and purples are her favourite colour, and these are my other daughter's favourite colours. So pick whatever colours work for you. I'm going to start by filling in the satin, the t-shirt with a satin stitch. So I'm just going to unwind some thread. And I'm going to use 3 threads, 3 strands. So I'm going to unwind them. Right. Because I'm using an odd number of strands, I have to knot them this time. So pop a knot in the bottom. Now, when you're doing satin stitch, start in the centre and kind of work out to one side and then back again. So I'm going to start in the centre here, and I'm going to work vertically. Keep the stitches as close together as possible. So I want to create a sleeve, a separate texture for the sleeve. So I'm going to start here and come straight down as my guiding stitch, and I'm only going to fill in to the right of that stitch. Okay, so that's our little t-shirt filled in. So next I'm going to do some stripes in the pale aqua colour. So this time I'm just going to use 1 strand thickness. Right, so what I'm going to create now is some stripes. So although I'm stitching with single thread, what I'm actually doing is going over each stripe twice. So rather than using double thread, because what will happen if I use double thread is that all of the stitches will be uniform. What I quite like about using single thread is it's almost like sketching with thread. There we go. That's our little t-shirt done. So continuing with our little denim outfit, I'm now going to put some texture into our denim dungarees. Again, I'm using one single strand. There we go. There's our little dungarees done. We're going to create some texture in our little girl's flowery dress on this side. So these two pieces, much in a similar sort of way, but we're doing lots of vertical lines to create the effect of folds in the fabric. I've got two different colours, so I've tried to pick out colours that are in the fabric that I've used for the dress. So I'm going to start with the paler colour, and again I'm just going to use a single strand. Okay, so there we go, there's our first layer of fabric fold stitching. So we're going to do the next bit, exactly the same, using our darker colour for depth and shading. There we go. And that's our clothing finished. We've done everything except for the two circles for the head, the two ovals. We're going to start with the short bobbed hair because this is a slightly more simple hairstyle to achieve than the curly one. So once you've mastered it doing this head, you'll be able to do this one. My tip with the hair is to pick 3 colours of thread that tone together, because as we know, hair isn't one colour, it tends to be made up of different colours. So for this one, this is my eldest daughter here, who I've based this on, and she's got quite dark, straight, matte hair. So I've gone for 3 sort of fairly darkish chocolate browns to go for her hair. So you want to cut your lengths of thread, of floss, and we're going to use 1 strand of each. So I'm going to start with this head, we're going to go across here, first of all. So I'm going just slightly above halfway, so approximately there. But I'm going to go in from the front to the back, first of all. And I'm going to pull it, so I've got a tail that is about the length of where I want my hair to be, just slightly longer. What I want is for the hair to sit along this line of the lace here, so I'm just going to bring it down slightly longer. I'm going to clamp that tail, and this is where the open weave of this fabric works, because you can quite easily just go into the next hole. I'm going to come down and I'm going to loop my thread so that it is the same length as my tail, approximately, doesn't matter if it's not exact. And then back in through the next hole. Okay, so I've started my new thread and I've completed my line of stitching. So I'm going to come up a line and go back again. So we're going to end up with 2 parallel lines of loops. Now we're going to follow the curve. There we go. So we've gone round the curve. So now I'm just going to snip my loops. Now what I'm going to do is just lift up and out of the way. So we've got our curve hair at the top and our straight hair at the bottom. I've got some of my thread from doing the dress earlier. I think this is 3 thicknesses. I'm just going to lie it in that gap there and lift the hair back over, like so. And then we're going to tie a knot. Just tweak it until you're happy. Snip away the ends. Okay, so we have completed hairstyle number 1. So now we're going to do some curly hair on this side. So my other daughter has quite dark blonde hair. So I've gone for three colours, but they're a bit more blonde in tone. For our curly hair ponytail, what we're actually going to do is we're not going to go across like we did for this one. We're going to go all the way around in the same manner as this one, but all the way around the oval. Now this time, so I want my ponytail to end sort of around arm height. And because I'm curling it, I need it to be longer than that because we're going to need a little bit of extra. So what I'm going to do is just have it a bit longer. Let's trim them so they're all the same length so you can see. I'm going to have it so it's just below the bottom of the hoop. That's kind of my guide. Okay, so we've gone all the way around, and we've completed that loop, and now I'm just going to trim the loops like we did before. Lovely. Right, so now I'm going to pull all of my embroidery thread hair up into the middle. Just move my bobbed hair out of the way. And now I'm just going to tease my threads so that they're nice and smooth. Once you're happy with it being smooth and it's up in the middle, I'm going to get some more of my dark turquoise thread and wrap it around. Just tie a knot. Tied it there. And I'm going to snip the ends nice and close. Okay, so I'm just going to give my ponytail a little bit of a brush so that the threads are all pretty much going in the same direction. Right, okay, so now we're going to curl our ponytail. You can obviously leave it straight if you'd rather, just trim it to length, but if you want to curl it, this is how we do it. So we're going to start by we'll get that needle, just separating off. If you've ever been to the hairdressers, a bit like they do when they're cutting your hair. Don't worry if they're all a bit different lengths, that's absolutely fine because we're curling it all anyway. So we've got our first layer of hair. So in here I've got some decoupage glue, slightly watered down, so probably 2/3 glue to 1/3 water. If you've only got PVA, not decoupage glue, then maybe more 50-50. Just you don't want it too thick because you don't want to solidify the hair, you just want to hold it in place. Some plastic straws, if you're still able to get hold of them. Luckily we've got an old box that's many years old at home. But any cylindrical plastic item will do. These are just easy. You probably need about 3 straws and you want to cut them into pieces, maybe 3 to 4 centimetres long. You also need just a scrap bit of cellophane, any old cellophane plastic lying around. I'm just going to cut a strip off and I'm just going to cut it into little squares like so. Okay, so we're going to start with our first bit of hair. Get our piece of straw. I'm just going to start by wrapping it round. It's a bit fiddly. Once you've got the main body of the curl going, what you can do is get your paintbrush with your glue on and just kind of paint these end threads around the straw. And then we don't want too big an amount of straw at the head end, otherwise they won't sit flat. So just paint your curl. I'm going to pop a piece of cellophane and just lie it down on top so we're not getting any glue on the embroidery underneath. Carry on and make sure there's a layer of cellophane in between each row of curls around the straws. And then you're going to leave that to dry, preferably overnight, because you want it to be really dry before you take them out. Right, so we're now on our final stage. We've had our herring curlers overnight, so now they're nicely dry and set. So I'm going to pull out my little pieces of cellophane. Now, to release the hair from the straws, just give the straws a little bit of a twist so that it unsticks, and then just slide them out. If you pull any of these too hard, you're going to end up undoing the work you've done. So just give them a little twist. They come up pretty easy. Okay, so there's all our little ringlets. By all means, leave them as ringlets if you want to, but if you want it to be a bit more realistic, we're going to have to start pulling them apart. So the way we do this is just ever so gently. We kind of want to split them in half, like so, and then get a needle and just push and separate. Okay, so we're done. We've pulled all of our strands apart, so now we've got this nice bushy lump of curls. Just trim away any excess long ones that maybe you're not happy with, just so that you've got the length that you want. Have a bit of a play, make sure it's all where you want it to be, and your hair is done. Now, just to finish off, all I've done is I've cut away the excess fabric from the outside, and I've glue gunned along the inside of the hoop and folded the fabric in and glue gunned it all the way around, and then just a circle of felt on the outside just to finish it off. Thanks so much for joining me today. I've had a lot of fun making this with you guys. Please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to our channel for more brilliant how-to crafty videos just like this one. Thank you very much for joining us. Bye-bye.